Hi everybody, welcome to the next lesson on transformation of a square. I'm going to show you two things today. One of the things will be how we can actually find 3 squares within our 9 square, or any other square that we choose to do, and I'll show you how to do that. Also, I want to show you how we can do this work on graph paper. Right here. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. You're going to need a ruler, a pencil. In my case, I'm going to use a Sharpie just so everybody can see what in the world I'm doing. And then you're going to need your squares and or graph paper, and then some kind of coloring implement. Okay, so let's start by using our 9 squares. And then I have a couple other squares too that we can use. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to find a square of 2. And I'm going to color in this space. So there's my square of 2. All right. And then I'm going to come down and I'm going to find a square of 3. So again, here's the first bead. I'm going to go diagonal. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So see how it makes a square? It's really important that it makes a square. All right. And then I'm going to find my next square. I'm going to come from this bottom rightmost bead, diagonal, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to go ahead and get this colored in. All right. So there are my 3 squares. Okay, so to find all of our rectangles, I'm going to show you where to draw a couple lines. So I'm going to go to the bottom of my 2 square, and I am going to draw a simple line like that. Then I'm going to go to the side of my 2 square here, and I'm going to draw a little line. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing with my pink square, my 3 square. Draw a line there, and then one here. I'm going to go ahead and color this one in. And let's see. This one is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Do we have another rectangle that is 6? Yeah, right here. You remember the rectangles that are on either side of the square are the same. You remember that from when you were practicing your transformation of a square 1, the first lesson we did, where we only found 2 squares. All right, now I'm going to look at this rectangle. Right. So actually, let me go ahead and grab my Sharpie here. And I'm going to label these. So we have 2 squared. What's this square? 3 squared. 4 squared. What do we multiply to get this one? 3, 1, 2 times. 3 times 2. What did we get here? 1, 2, 3, 4. We see 4. 1, 2 times. So 4 times 2. Here, what did we multiply? 1, 2. We have 2, 1, 2, 3 times. So 2 times 3. We have our 3 square here, but this rectangle right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and we have 4. 1, 2, 3 times. So this is 3 times 4. So this is 3 times 4. Now let's go here. We have 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have 2 times 4. We've seen that already, haven't we? Right here. So I'm going to draw it the same color. Since they are the same amount, I want to draw them as the same color. And this was 2 times 4. Cool. Now let's look here. We have 3, 1, 2, 3, 4 times. So we have 3 times 4. Oh, look, we have that right there too. We know that 3 times 4 and 4 times 3 are the same thing. It doesn't really matter which order you write them in because it gives you the same answer. It's actually sometimes easier to write them the same way because then you can see which ones are the same. And we have that labeled. Okay, so I have my 9 square labeled. I'm going to cut it out and I'm going to put it on a piece of plain paper. So I've attached my square to my paper, and this is the first step. The first step is finding 3 different squares within 1 square, and then being able to find your rectangles that are the same and label all the parts. Okay, so that's what I want you to practice. Let's do another one together. Okay, so here I have an 8 square, and I'm going to go ahead and try to find some squares in this one. I'm going to start with a teeny tiny little baby square, the square of 1, and then I'm going to find the square of 2. So we go here directly. You can go diagonal. There's that. The last square. So I'm going to start here. And I'm going to come down. And this is going to be the square of 5. So there are my squares. So I'm going to take my ruler. And you're going to want to use your ruler to help you find your rectangles for a little bit until you get really used to it. I can find them, but I've also been doing this lesson for a really long time. So there's one set of lines. I'm going to come down to my second square. Draw a line. I'm going to draw a line here. There. We can see our squares and our rectangles. So I'm going to label my squares. This is 1 squared, 2 squared, and this was 5 squared. Okay, so let's go ahead and find our rectangles. We're going to just start right here. So this is 1, 2. This is 2, 1 time. I'm going to write that. 2 times 1. Hope you can see that. It's kind of small. All right, now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many times? 1. 5, 1 time. 5 times 1. Right, now we're going to come down here. We have 1, 1, 2 times. And that's the same as 2 times 1. So I'm going to color that the same color. It always helps to see which ones are the same when they're the same color. So 1 times 2. We have our 2 square here. Let's see, we have 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5. 1, 2 times. 5 times 2. Cool. Now we come here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have 1, 5 times. And that's the same as up here, right? My pink rectangle. 1 times 5. And then the last rectangle we need to look at is 1, 2. We have 2 here, so we have 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. 2 times 5, which is the same as 5 times 2. So I'm going to color it with my green. Voila. There we go. So I can attach this to my paper there. So what I want you to do is I want you to practice finding 3 squares within another square as best as you can. Now, I'm going to show you, I know last time we went over some writing. I want to show you how we're going to write these today, all right? So, we're going to start up here. We have 2 squared, and we're going to add that to 3 times 2 plus 4 times 2 plus 2 times 3 plus 3 squared plus 3 times 4 plus 2 times 4. Uh-oh, I'm running out of room. I'm going to come down here. Plus 3 times 4 plus 4 squared. Whoa. That is one big problem. Let's write this one down here. So we have, I'm going to write a little smaller so maybe I can actually get it to all fit. So 1 squared plus 2 times 1 plus 5 times 1 plus 1 times 2 plus 2 squared plus 5 times 2 plus 1 times 5 plus 2 times 5 plus 5 squared. Whoa, that's pretty cool. So it turned out to be really long. It's a long way of writing this square. Remember, this was a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 square. This is an 8 square. Okay, cool. So I want you to practice finding 3 squares within a square. Remember, draw your lines so that you can see your rectangles, and then write down each part of your transformed square. Remember, rectangles, you put parentheses around them. All right, cool. So I want to go ahead and show you on graph paper how we can do this. Okay, so here I have a piece of graph paper, it's a smaller piece of graph paper. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick out my squares first. Okay, so I'm going to start here and I'm going to do the square of 3, right? So I'm using the lines of my graph paper. If you need to, use a ruler. I am going to use a ruler on my bigger ones. So I have the square of 3. Then I'm going to do, let's see, do the square of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's a 5 square. And now I'm going to do, a 3 square. So this time you see they're not in order from smallest to biggest. That's okay. They don't have to be. I have a habit of doing that when I first start teaching the lesson, but they absolutely don't have to be in order smallest to biggest. It's all good. Some people like to do it that way. I think it looks really nice when it's that way, but I wanted to show you one where it wasn't. So we have our 3 squares. I'm going to label them real quick, actually. We have 3 squared, 5 squared, and 4 squared. And I'm going to take my marker and my ruler, and I'm going to draw my lines. And since this isn't beaded paper, I'm going to draw lines all the way here. Okay, so I can see here, see where this one ends. I'm going to follow this line up, and I'm just going to put a dot there so that I know when to stop drawing my line. There we go. All right. There. So there's my 3 square. Do the other 2 sides of my 5 square. And then I'm going to do the other 2 sides of my 4 square. And that's going to make my whole square on my graph paper stand out nicely. Okay. All right. There it is. So we're going to start here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we have it 1, 2, 3 times. I'm going to label it. It was 5 times 3. Cool. Now I'm going to do this one. I'm going to use green for this one. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3 times. 4 times 3. Cool. I'm going to go here. We have 1, 2, 3. And we have 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. 5 times 3. Or 3 times 5, which is the same as this. So I'm going to color this in the same color. So this is 3 times 5. Now we'll go right here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. 4 times 5. We haven't seen that yet, have we? So I'm going to do this purpley color. Okay, this was 4 times 5. We're going to come down here. 1, 2, 3. We have 3. 1, 2, 3, 4 times. 3 times 4. Have we already seen that? Yeah, 4 times 3. So I'm going to color it green. 3 times 4. Cool. Oh, look, we have one more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 times 5. Well, we know that's the same as 5 times 4. So I shall color it the pretty purple color. Cool. So 5 times 4. There we go. So that's how you do it on graph paper. Really what you do is you kind of just start out the same way. You make your squares on the diagonal, and then you have to draw your lines where your squares are. The biggest difference is it has this nice dark outline around it. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and write this out for us. Each part. So 3 squared. Yeah, I'm going to put a little check. Rectangle, so I'm going to write parentheses. 5 times 3. I should write smaller. Plus 4 times 3. Plus 3 times 5. Plus 5 square. Plus 4 times 5. Plus 3 times 4. Plus 5 times 4. Plus 4 squared. There we go. Look at that. Oh, goodness. Now, can you imagine a book full of these? It ends up looking really, really beautiful, doesn't it? You can choose all sorts of colors. Just make sure that the rectangles that are the same color. That's going to help you see the parts better. Okay? Blue, blue, pink, pink, green, green. Green, green, blue, blue, red, red. All right? So go ahead and practice this. If you need me, call me. My recommendation is I would maybe, if you would like, if you're comfortable with this paper, start with this paper, but you're going to want to move on to the graph paper because you're going to be able to make more of a variety in the squares that you transform because you can only really fit so many squares in here. Okay, sometimes you're going to end up with maybe a square happening twice. That's okay. That's really not the end of the world. And, you know, just make sure that you recognize that you could possibly have 2, 3 squares in there. Okay, actually, let's take a look at that really quick. Okay, so say I have a 9 square here. And say I did a 2 square, a 5 square, and then all I have room left for is a 2 square. Like that. So I'm going to draw out my lines real quick. Okay. So let's take a look at what we got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have a 5, 1, 2 times. That was times 2. Oh, sorry, let me label my squares. Now let's look here. 1, 2, 1, 2, 2 times 2. Well, look at that. That is another 2 square, isn't it? Sure is. We have 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. That's the same as 5 times 2. I'm going fast here. And here I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 2 5 times again. Here I have 1, 2, 2 times. I'll be darned. Another 2 square. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2 times. 5 times 2. Uh-oh. Wrong marker, Miss McGee. Sorry, ignore that purple line in there. You don't see it. It doesn't exist. 5 times 2. So look at that. That looks pretty different, doesn't it? We actually have 1, 2, 3, 4 2 squares. So that's going to happen sometimes. That's okay. Just make sure that you label them correctly, that they are indeed squares. Okay? All right. Thanks, guys. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. It ends up being quite beautiful. It kind of just reminds me of stained glass. I would love to see what you guys end up doing, what you're working on. And we have one more lesson after this that we're going to do in relation to transformation of a square. Okay? We're going to do that next week, and I look forward to doing it with you. Thanks, guys.